In this video, I'm going to go over how to do the transmission fluid change on a 2022 Ford F250 6.7 liter diesel. And the last video was about a year ago in this vein, which was how to change a NOx sensor, which is throwing a check engine light and giving me some issues here. But the idea is to keep this thing running for a very long time. So I went ahead and did the transmission fluid service well before the time it specifies in the manual, which was I think more than 100,000 miles, which doesn't even make sense because that's past the factory warranty, which I believe is 85,000. So you kind of wonder with some of these intervals that they recommend, you're always better off doing them more frequently than not. Same thing with oil changes, same thing with fuel filter changes. It's just one more way to keep the vehicle running better without having any problems for a longer period of time. So anyway, I'm just going to run the clips of how I went through this procedure, some of the pitfalls I ran into. At the end of the video, I'll kind of do a recap with the specifics of those, but basically the long and short of it is that because of a skid plate I have, the way it was bolted, I was unable to fully pull that pan, which would have allowed me to then change the filter, which I had ready to go, and then found to my dismay as I was already well into the process that all I could do was dump the fluid, which was fine. I was able to see that the red on that ATF fluid was it was intact. It looked good. Hard to say whether it was really necessary at 70,000+ miles, but it's done. Changed that fluid out. On the next one, I'm going to do the filter, and yeah, here are these clips, and then have a great rest of your day, and I hope this was helpful. All right, so first step is going to be to remove this skid plate and then spray some brake parts cleaner up on that pan. Wow, there's a solid layer of dirt under here that got up under the skid plate. So we'll do that and then get to the pan. Okay, next we're gonna start removing these bolts on the heat shield. Okay, there's a few of these, another one here. Okay, so remove this heat shield. Okay, now we're gonna start taking off these bolts. And there's 6 of these, I think, and I could be wrong, and I believe 14 of the others. And the other ones I'm just gonna use a driver, but I didn't have that bit. So we're gonna do all these, and then we got our drain pan here, and open this lid, let it drain, and then we're gonna be getting to the filter and the gasket and fluid fill. So I got those 6 big bolts out, that one. Now I'm gonna start doing these, and you wanna do these evenly. In other words, don't go in line. You want to loosen them uniformly. All right, so as I loosen, it's starting to leak out up here. And what I'm going to do is loosen one side more than the other and let it kind of drain before I pull that whole pan. So it seems like a good amount of this is already drained. We'll see what happens when the pan actually comes off, but I'm about done with getting all these bolts off of here. Okay. Now, I'm gonna take out this drain plug. And we're gonna enter in the fluids dispenser and fill till we see the fluid level with this bottom of this hole. Okay. So I'm using this fluids dispenser. For the initial fill, I got about another quart and some change. Right, and that's in there. All right, now we're gonna start it up and keep adding until it's spilling out of that fluid hole. Let it prime. Hear that? Okay, so we did one cycle. You can hear it doing something. Same as what the fuel filters do. Just let it prime. Let's see if it'll do it again. Yep, it's doing something. And it stopped. Do that a few more times. Okay. Did that 4 times, cycled it, stop. Now we're gonna start it. Now I'm gonna keep adding more until it's, let's turn this valve to on. This phone's actually helping me see better. So as soon as it starts overflowing from that hole, we're gonna we're gonna replace the threaded piece and then drive it and get it up to, I believe it's between 195 and 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're gonna pull that plug in and check the level, and then we'll be done. So as you saw there, I was able to get that pan at enough of an angle to drain that old fluid out. And then when I zipped it back in, was ready to start using that fluid dispenser, which was a cool process. I was trying to decide if that fluid dispenser was worth the cost, but I've concluded that it is, because it can be used for other things. And the way that it retains pressure is really cool, because once it is going with that pump, it's going to keep drawing fluid to whatever destination you want, which in this case is that drain hole, which you want to get that transmission fluid up to that level. So that was cool to see that actually make sense. I mean, it's one thing to read something in a manual, but it's another thing to see it and feel it. And as I said earlier, the only issue was that I wasn't able to replace that filter, which is fine. Everything looked good. There was no metal shavings, or you would hope not, there weren't, or any contamination in that fluid. So the next service will be the filter and the fluid. And yeah, that's about it on this video. It's pretty interesting learning um, how to work on these newer vehicles. It's a little more involved, but if you have an understanding of AC and DC electricity, um, you're going to be way ahead. I highly suggest learning about that, because you're going to run into sensors and circuits and all kinds of things that aren't going to be as difficult to figure out if you understand the basics of electricity. There's another truck that I'm doing some work on with a parasitic short in '01, and for now I just installed the battery quick disconnect so that the batteries aren't draining when it's just sitting there. But once I decide to get into the weeds on that and figure out where that short is, it's going to be much easier having an understanding of how electricity works. So anyway, there's a lot of sensors, a lot of stuff on these vehicles that for good reason people are not happy with, especially people who have the experience working on vehicles for decades. But there is ways to deal with it, and it's all about education, right? So anyway, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. I guess I should have said those in the opposite order, but either way, have a good one, and see you in the next Trucks, Tools, and Food video.